Tom Curran's Patriots Talk podcast is presented by FanDuel Sportsbook. Make every moment more.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome into Tom Curran's Patriots Talk podcast. We got a banger today. We have Phil Perry, as usual. We're going to talk about how the Patriots would view the Patriots offense if they had to deal with it. We're also going to bring in Todd Archer from ESPN Dallas. He's going to give us some insight on a Cowboys team that looked like gangbusters over the first 2 weeks, but stubbed its toe against the hapless Arizona Cardinals on Sunday. Phil, how are you?
Doing well, Tom. Doing really well. Cheers to you, my friend.
Thanks,
You're
guy.
doing great.
So listen to this. From Pro Football Talk, the NFL uses tracking technology to record players' speeds when carrying the ball. In Sunday's 70-20 win over the Broncos, Tyreek Hill reached a top speed of 22.07 miles per hour, fastest speed of any ball carrier this season. In the same game, running back Devin Arcane hit a speed of 21.
It's Arcan. I think it's Archan. Archan. He just changed the pronunciation. Sorry. Go ahead.
Thanks. Okay, we're locked in on that. On Devin A Train, 21.93. That's the second fastest. In fact, the top six fastest speeds by ball carriers all belong to the Dolphins. Raheem Mostert is also in that group. The fastest play, this is great, fastest play by a non-Dolphin this season came on Packers running back Aaron Jones's 35-yard touchdown catch in week 1. Jones hurt his hamstring on the play and hasn't played since. That's what the Patriots are dealing with in their own conference. Now, they held that team, which hung 70 on the Denver Broncos, in their own division, I should say, to 24 points. And they bottled them up. But when we look at the Patriots offense, they're pretty primitive. How far are the Patriots from developing at least a complementary downfield passing attack, Phil?
Well, you're not getting much faster unless you decide to suddenly play Pop Douglas more. He was sturdy at number 4 on the Patriots receiver depth chart, couldn't even crack 20 snaps in week 3 against the Jets. So you decide to play that guy more, you get a little bit more speed on the field, you bump up those mile per hour numbers. So that's the first thing you could do. But outside of that, Tom, that's just not how you're going to beat teams. You're going to have to use spit and bubble gum and duct tape and try to MacGyver this thing and scheme the hell out of it with your biggest off-season offensive acquisition, Bill O'Brien. He's got to be the star of the show. Unfortunately for the Patriots, that's not usually how the best teams operate. Usually it's the Jimmies and the Joes, not the X's and the O's.
We haven't seen a lot of downfield throws aside from, let's look at the arm grab on the Kendrick Bourne deep ball last week. Should have been a PI. They didn't get it. And the Demario Douglas deep ball this week before the half should have been a PI. Other than that, I wouldn't say that many of these downfield throws are just misses. I mean, they're barely near the strike zone. They're barely in the zip code sometimes. What ails them if they can't even know which way the guy's going to turn or which side to throw it to?
Well, that's number 1. I mean, you have to get on the same page first. That's going to be the first thing you do, because you've got no shot if you're not seeing it the same way, right? And, it doesn't even matter how athletic you are or aren't. So that's number 1, and I have real concerns as far as that goes with Juju Smith-Schuster in particular. I think the other guys have spent enough time together, Bourne, Parker, that they will be able to at least be on the same page in the very near future here. But with Smith-Schuster, Tom, you miss all the spring. We know how important these offseason reps can be, or at least they were for 20 years, it seemed like, with Tom Brady. Getting those guys together, working in the offseason, we gave that a lot of credit at the time. And I think it was right then, and I think it's right for us now to point out that Mac Jones and Juju Smith-Schuster basically didn't throw together all spring, by their own admission. And now we're seeing the results. 3 targets, 1 catch, 5 yards in a divisional game where you really could have used the guy, and he's getting 2 targets down the field late. I mean, so not on the same page and
in
not fast.
Leverage,
There's no way to go
plays.
through a downfield passing game life.
And high leverage plays too, Phil. Got to have it. That's what's hard to look at. And I think defenses, and we're going to get into this in just a second, I think defenses are dictating that. They see 3rd and 3. I mean, that was kind of one-on-one outside with Devontae Parker on the first drive of the game. Was it not? When they said 3rd and 3, yeah, we'll just play man here and see if we can entice Mac Jones into throwing deep to Devontae Parker on the throw that sailed long.
Go
ahead.
I don't know why that's the answer so often for them. To me, they aren't built to be a down the field passing team. And so for Mac Jones to be near the top of the league in terms of, air yards per attempt, which, I could try to pull it up right now, but I know in that Jets game, he was well over 10 yards per attempt in terms of the distance the football traveled down the field on average. I don't think you should ever be near 10 if you're the Patriots, especially against a team like the Jets that has a great defense the way they do. Now, maybe they felt as though the middle, sort of the short to intermediate passing game was so choked out that the only way to beat it was to throw over the top, but they can't survive that way.
But that's what I think defenses might be saying, and what Bill Belichick might be saying if he was lined up across from his own team. We'll take our chances with Devontae Parker. We'll take our chances with Kendrick Bourne. We'll take our chances with Mac throwing a balloon in there that's going to work out perfectly. We're just not, as opposed to let the other team need a 12-play drive. Teams aren't afraid of the Patriots coming up with a 3-play drive. So they try and get them off the field quick. Check this out. Brooke Pryor from ESPN wrote this about the death of the long pass. I'm going to read a little bit of it. There were 3,400 attempts, at least 15 yards downfield during the 2022 regular season, the fewest of any season since 2006. When quarterbacks did let it fly, they were pretty successful, 45.1%, highest completion percentage in a single season since 2006. The trend has continued the early part of 2023. Both air yards per attempt and number of passes attempted of more than 20 air yards were lower than 2022. And just 9.2% of all passes attempted were deep balls, down from 10.4 in week 1 of 2022. Air yards decreased from 7.3 to 7.1. Are the Patriots facing the same defenses, Phil, that a Patrick Mahomes or a Justin Herbert or even a Josh Allen are facing? Are they seeing the 2 high safeties, or are teams just not scared and they roll up on them?
I think they're probably not seeing the same kinds of defenses. And I think this has been happening for a while now, because this trend has been moving in this direction for the last few years, with all these Fangio inspired 2 high safety sorts of defenses that are meant to put a roof over opposing offenses, to take away explosive plays. This has been happening for a little while now, and it's occurring now more than ever. But the Patriots have never been, in the last 4 years, have they had an explosive offense? They really haven't. And so I remember Ivan Fears, former Patriots running backs coach, telling us, we never see 2 high safeties. Like, teams don't play us that way, because he was asked about the trend. And I think what he was getting at was, we're such a good running the football team that teams wouldn't dare play 2 high safeties against us, because then we'd run wild. Mm-hmm. But the flip side to that is, teams also aren't afraid of being beaten by the explosive pass against us either. So I think there's something to the fact that they probably will be defended over the course of this year and moving forward, until they get more explosive, a little bit more differently than others. Although, Tom, I can tell you, just according to Sports Info Solutions, Mac Jones has about the same number of attempts against single high safety coverages as he does 2 high safety coverages. It's not all that different. I've got him for 43 dropbacks against 1 high safety looks and 39 dropbacks against 2 high safety looks. That's according to Sports Info Solutions.
And I'm sure our audience, being what our audience is, understands what all that is. But a 1 high safety means it's a single guy in the middle of the field, kind of a post safety, which means it's more difficult to get over the top on outside receivers. Patriots right now don't have that outside burner, who would be Tyquan Thornton. And again, it's instructive to see that when the Patriots did say, well, shit, man, Ivan, you're right. Let's go get a fast guy. Let's get the skinniest guy in the draft, who's also the fastest guy in the draft, who's completely different than what we've usually done, and let's draft him. And I don't dislike Tyquan Thornton's game. I thought he did a nice job in the summer of last year, showing that he had different gears, even though he's a burner. He could throttle up, he could throttle down, he could work in the middle of the field. He's just too frail so far. And that's been borne out. And when it came to DeAndre Hopkins, if you want a contested catch guy on the outside, maybe DeAndre Hopkins still doesn't run as fast. They didn't want to do that. They didn't want to get that guy. They were good with Devontae Parker, hoping that he would win contested catches. And we saw in week 2, that was not going to be the case. He got boxed into Jupiter by Xavier Howard. Didn't stand a chance. So it's like, if we can see it and Ivan Fears can articulate it, and the Patriots need to do something to come up with that other pitch, why the won't they do it? You can beat that. I mean, how can they be so inept at finding the other pitch?
I don't know. I don't know how, you fix that either, because it's been a problem for a while. I think the thing that's probably the easiest fix for them, Tom, in terms of becoming more explosive, and this will sound a little counterintuitive, you just have to run the ball better. They still, even though they were improved against the Jets, they're still near the bottom of the league in some sort of head scratching categories to me. And the one that stands out the most, again, leaning on next gen stats here, is their rush yards that are created by the running backs and their individual skill sets. You have these two big bodied guys in Ezekiel Elliott and especially Ramondre Stevenson, who are accustomed to running over people, stepping through tackles, and picking up yards that they shouldn't, generally speaking, be able to pick up. But I have it, according to next gen stats, Ezekiel Elliott is 30th and Ramondre Stevenson is 44th in the NFL in rush yards over expected per attempt. So again, what are you creating on your own per carry? And those guys are way down the list, and they should.
And that should improve as the season goes along and the offensive line's better. But the point is well taken. Maybe Bill looked at it and said, well, look, we got 27 teams in the NFL who are trying to get skinnier and faster because of the downfield passing attacks. So there's an inefficiency there. So we're going to zing while everybody else is zanging. And we're going to have one of those teams that defenses know what they want to do against us, but they really can't do it because they just don't have the personnel, because they staff themselves for something else. But I think the rushing attack will improve statistically, but it's just an archaic approach, and they've outsmarted themselves a bit. Last question before I bring in Todd Archer to talk some Cowboys. How would the Patriots, Phil, defensively attack the Patriots?
Great question. I think we saw it over the course of training camp. I think they'd blitz the ever-living you-know-what out of them.
They do what they did to Zach Wilson?
Incredibly aggressive.
Basically,
it would be a little bit different. It would be a little bit different than what they do to Zach Wilson, because Zach Wilson, it did feel like there were times in that game where, yes, they blitzed him, but they also did a good job of sort of making sure that any escape lanes for him were unavailable to him. I don't think you'd be as concerned about that with Mac Jones, but I think they would test this protection. I think they'd test this offensive line by sending additional pressure at them and then force them to beat man coverage, because they can't beat man coverage. They don't have the weapons on the outside, and the Patriots love to play man coverage. So they'd get aggressive. They'd attack, try to move Mac Jones off his spot, because he's a pretty good pocket passer when his feet are settled. And they'd play man, and they'd say, beat us on the outside. You can't do it.
Do you think Bill would be pissed if the Patriots scored more than 17 points against him?
Probably. I mean, what kind of score should they be allowing to the Patriots offense? I think this Patriots defense is really good. So I think 17 and under is probably what I would be expecting. I would have to think Bill Belichick would feel the same way.
I'm a good predictor when it does come to scores and stuff. I'm pretty hot this year, actually. Very hot.
Good for you.
The first 3 games. I know.
That's
you
great.
know me. I'm never.
Congratulations.
Okay. You know what?
No, I'm really happy for you. My picks, by the way, are dominating yours in the Tom Giles picks competition.
That's fine. So if the Patriots played the Patriots, my prediction would be the Patriots offense would score. It would be a 13-16 situation.
Wait, who's scoring the other points? You can only I'm confused how you did you're saying the range would be 13 to 16.
Patriots would score 13 to 16
Gotcha.
points against their own defense over 60 minutes.
Yeah. Okay. That's
You
fair.
were a little smart alecky with when I was self-congratulatory.
Yeah, no,
I mean,
it's
if it
great.
wasn't, if it wasn't factual, you know what? I'll see you in the office later.
It's very genuine. It's very genuine. I'm very happy for you.
I'm going to bring in Todd. Todd. Okay, see ya. Snap into action this NFL season with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. That's $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get in on the action. The app is so easy to use. There's a wide range of betting options, including spreads, player props, over-unders, and more. So visit FanDuel.com/NSBO and kick off the NFL season. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. 21 plus and present in Mass. Hope is here. First online real money wager only. $10 first deposit required. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets that expire 7 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling helpline ma.org or call 800-327-5050 for 24/7 support. Play it smart from the start. GameSenseMA.com or call 1-800-GAM-1234. All right, ladies and gentlemen, here he is. It's Todd Archer. He's a Massachusetts native. You know that. So he's well appraised of what the Patriots have been up to for the last 40 years or so. But you are covering the Cowboys and been doing it for a couple of decades. What in God's name happened on Sunday against one of the worst teams in football that's trying to get the #1 overall pick practically?
Yeah, it shows you just where they are, right? This is what they do. They play great. They get on a good run. You're thinking, hey, this is different. This is going to be, they'll be able to handle success. And then they go to Arizona and they fall flat. And that's why it's hard to take them seriously, year in and year out when they do this stuff. And I've said this year especially, doesn't matter what they do in September, October, November, December, even early January. This entire season is based on what they do when they get to the playoffs. So this loss doesn't really change anything really against Arizona. But you lost a game you should have won. You lost pace with the Eagles in your division. You lost pace with the Niners in the conference. Now you play them in a couple weeks. But this is a game now you have to make up somewhere along the line. But this whole season for Mike McCarthy, Dak Prescott, Jerry Jones, it's getting further in the playoffs, NFC title game, Super Bowl, whatever it is. If not, it's the same old Cowboys.
So does this turn into a wake-up call and the Patriots are going to face a hot and bothered Cowboys team at home? Or are they going to go through a week of navel-gazing and maybe they get in their own heads?
I more the former than the latter. This is a team that has generally responded to adversity during Dak Prescott and even Jason Garrett's time as head coach with Tony Romo. They've not put together multiple stinkers in a while, and I'm sure I'm missing something, but nothing comes to my mind. I think you'll see a defense that was what the issue was. Yeah, the offense had red zone problems, and it's had red zone problems this year, but the defense was as the best in the NFL through 2 games. Maybe that's a product of seeing the Jets and the Giants. We'll find out as the year goes along. But the defense was without Trayvon Diggs, but they still had everybody else. Last year, the Cowboys went 4-1 when they lost Dak Prescott to a broken thumb. You lose Trayvon Diggs, your defense can't fall apart. And they fell apart, especially in the run defense. And now, oh, by the way, here comes their old friend Zeke to see them this Sunday at AT&T Stadium.
Imagine going Jets, Giants, Cardinals, Patriots, and losing to the Cardinals. I mean, they should, by rights, they should have walked in and go, we go perfect in September. But instead, they're going to look at it and go, we didn't go perfect, and we lost to the one team we couldn't. So I would imagine that they're going to look at the Patriots and say, well, who are we afraid of? We're not terrified of Devontae Parker. We're not afraid of Kendrick Bourne. We're not afraid of Hunter Henry. Plenty of respect for all of them, but they're not going to tear us apart. We're going to stop Zeke and Ramondre Stevenson. Can they bow up and fix their run defense?
We'll see. And that's the thing, Tom. Every week they know teams are going to attack their run because their defense relies on speed and and not so much power, right? There's no Ted Washingtons in this group. Jonathan Hankins is close, but he's not Ted Washington. They rely on flying to the ball, getting guys around the ball. And the Cardinals had 180 yards rushing in the first half. That was more than the Cowboys allowed in the first two games total. So you know Belichick, Bill O'Brien, all these guys, what are they going to do? They're going to try and run the ball against these guys, shorten the game, keep Mac Jones away from Micah Parsons in that pass rush, and make it easy for him. And until the Cowboys can show they can slow it down by either bringing in bigger personnel or staying in their gaps, that's what we're going to see every week. And the Zeke return is fascinating to me because I'm sure he's going to want to prove that he still has some juice in the tank, and he's want to show them that they made a mistake. But they weren't going to pay him $16 million. He wasn't going to count $17 million against their cap this year. That was a non-starter. So they didn't make the wrong decision. But I'm sure Zeke is going to be fired up to go.
They didn't make the wrong decision. I wouldn't do that either. But the interesting thing is the Patriots are getting him at such an unbelievably low rate. And when you look at the contributions he's made, he walked in and immediately Kevin Harris and Pierre Strong were obsolete. And I've thought that Ramondre Stevenson, a rising back, was probably a good comp for Zeke in terms of, okay, decent to above average pass catcher in hands, patient runner, explosive, physical, yards after contact. They have two guys who are very similar there.
Yeah.
Did you think Zeke was near the end?
And I think he is near the end just because he started off so strong, and you've seen the fall off year by year. His numbers have gone down. But they're used in the right way. And the Cowboys kind of used him in the right way the last couple of years with Tony Pollard. He can still be an effective back. And they do miss him in the short yardage and goal line situations. He still had 12 touchdowns a year ago.
Yep.
He can still play. I don't think he's Corey Dillon when Corey came into the Cowboys, to the Patriots back in, was that 04, 05, somewhere around there. But he's probably more Antoine Smith at this point in his career. If there's my Patriots knowledge coming through for you.
I knew it. That's why we bring him in.
But Zeke is a fabulous teammate. He's a guy who's going to show up every day and be the same guy. Mike McCarthy said that from the first meeting he had with him to the last, he was always in the front row. Guys love him. Guys still love him here. And I'm curious to see if he's the third all-time leading rusher in Cowboys history behind two pretty good backs maybe you've heard of, Emmitt Smith and Tony Dorsett, two Hall of Famers. He did a lot of great things here for the Cowboys, for the community. The reception for him is going to be an interesting one, and I'm curious if the Cowboys actually do something to recognize him before the game.
That's cool.
Soften him up a little bit.
Yeah, soften him up is right. Interactions with him I've had, which are brief in the Patriots locker room because they just don't go in the locker room, have been good. I've enjoyed the kid, and you can tell that his teammates enjoy the hell out of him too. How are the Cowboys enjoying the Dak Prescott no more interceptions experience so far?
Yeah, he had his first one last week against the Cardinals, and it's kind of a product of the change in system and how his feet are tied to routes, and if the stuff isn't open, his feet tell him to go somewhere else. So he's done a better job of that. But what you're not seeing probably some of the explosive plays that they've had when Kellen Moore was a play caller for 4 years. That's the funny thing to me here about the Cowboys' first 2 weeks. You had a lot of fans say, see, Kellen Moore, his offense was so out of date and out of touch, and McCarthy's brought these changes, and man, they're rolling. And, okay, Kellen Moore still directed like an offense that was 4th in yards and 4th in points over the last 4 years with the Cowboys. He did a lot of good things for Dak Prescott and a lot of explosive plays. I think that's what they're kind of missing right now with this West Coast. Get it out of your hands quick, hope for yards after contact and things like that, or yards after the catch. That's not kind of happened yet. They're driving the ball up and down the field. They've had 15 possessions inside the opponent's red zone. That's the most in the NFL. They've scored 4 touchdowns. Wow. 6 touchdowns. That's not going to get it done. They've had 8 or 9 misses in the red zone, Tom. They had 16 all of last year. So through 3 games, they're already halfway to what they did all of last year.
That's wild. The NFL is so built that way right now, isn't it? I mean, the Patriots want that. The Patriots look around the NFL with their defense and say, we got guys running 44 miles an hour from Miami. We have to deal with the same thing with Garrett Wilson from the Jets. We have to deal with all these guys. Everybody back. Make these guys go down the field. Don't have a holding penalty. Don't have a false start. complete everything, don't have a tip ball, and then see when you get into the red zone, it gets compressed. Can you finish it?
Right.
And
drop 7, drop 8, and you have no space to do anything. And if you don't have guys that can win on the outside, the Cowboys haven't won yet on the outside, then you let them to field goals. That's a pretty good way to live.
last question, because the Patriots do have good edge rushers now on both sides. They're making a difference with and interior guys like Keon White and Christian Barmore. The Cowboys front, their offensive line, can the edges be had?
Well, tell me who's playing. Tyron Smith, their left tackle, is probably a question mark for this week because of a knee injury. He was active last week, didn't start. They went with Chuma Edoga as their left tackle. I do wonder if this week, with a full week of practice, they moved Tyler Smith from left guard to left tackle. He played left tackle all of last year when Tyron Smith was out. So I wonder if that's a move that they make this week to solidify things on the left side. We're curious to see if Tyler Biotis, their Pro Bowl center, and their all-pro right guard, Zach Martin, if they can play. And they like their right tackle, Terrence Steele. He's done a decent job here to start the season, signed to a big-time extension. Their pass protection is good enough to withstand it because Dak's getting rid of the ball so quick. That's their answer to really good pass rushes, which they've seen. You know, the Giants have a pretty good D-line. The Jets have a pretty good line. The Cardinals, couldn't name anybody, but dude, they were second in the league in sacks through 3 games. I couldn't. It stunned me when I saw that stat, and I couldn't name anybody on their line because I stink.
Well, the Patriots, what they're interesting is they can win on the edge. Plus, they do all those stunts and loops, and then they have the kind of complicated underneath stuff. They have gotten Todd to a place where defensively, they have the experience and institutional knowledge with the group where they can start to do that weird stuff that Belichick does. Listen, thank you so much for taking the time, bringing us up to speed. Micah Parsons, Defensive Player of the Year?
Not if he plays like he did last week against Arizona, but if he gets back into form, yes. It's either him or TJ Watt, right?
He was ass against Arizona? You can't say that. Right? Okay, that's better. We don't,
How about that one?
In 2023, it turns into blowback, and the next thing you have Cowboys fan Todd Archer said Micah Parsons is ass.
No, he was not. He's not as good as he had been the first 2 weeks against the Cardinals, and we'll see if the Patriots run at him because that seems to be what teams want to do.
All right. That's our Medway Mass native, Todd Archer, weighing in from the Deep South.
Thanks, Tom.